Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Gerard.
Na tafadhali zima nini yako broadcast nyuma
Okay, huyo ni DJ Mike.
Hapo DJ.
Salamia Lucio, Michungu na
tumesalimia sana.
Sema haraka masaa imeenda.
Wacha niulize tu Michungu kwa anasema kuongeza kwa viti ya prime minister na deputy na
Maita ya Mchungu. Umemaliza yeye kabisa.
So anasema ikiongeza sio kuongeza bado ni kwa wananchi. Nauliza tuko sahi na ofisi ya naibu wa rais. Na tuna ofisi ya naibu wa rais kuna na
Hello, baba, pole na utafutange Adam. Sawa, tumefunga bunge tafadhali, bunge is closed. Tutachukua tena simu kesho, wacha tuangalie zile tumeweza kuangalia. We're ready 8 minutes past time. So wacha tupate rejoin us haraka tukifunga kazi.
Not be talk,
I think I had interrupted Mishungu. Please let me take it back to Mishungu briefly.
I think I was the one on the floor.
You had been
in case
interrupted.
you have amnesia, Gerard.
I'm sorry, I'm growing old as well.
I was saying, number one, Mijungu has alluded to the fact that the deputy president brought people from his community. There is no way you can have the president, the Republic of Kenya, abdicate from his duty as provided for in Article 152 of the Constitution 2. It says the president shall nominate and with approval of National Assembly appoint cabinet secretaries. William Ruto can only wish, but the ultimate power to nominate is that of the president. If we ended up with a cabinet that has a face of one community, that cannot be the responsibility of the deputy president, because the power to appoint and nominate is vested on the president in Article 152(2) of our constitution. So, Mijungu, you are trying to tell me that indeed the president of Kenya, who is yeye ni mweupe kama pamba, nominated a cabinet with one face of the republic, abdicating his responsibility in Article 152 of the Constitution. That is in essence what you are telling me. Then he is a very poor head of state. He doesn't understand the powers. That is one. Number two, even if you expand the executive as Mijungu is trying to tell us here, there is only one thing. The president has the power to appoint and to do what? The power to appoint and fire.
Appoint and disappoint.
Yes, whichever. Appoint and disappoint, if that is it. So therefore, if today I am the president and I nominate Bitok Gerard as the prime minister, the only thing I need to be reminding Gerard as the president is, even as he does what he does in parliament, is, my friend, remember, this BBI has given me the authority to fire you at will. So Gerard simply becomes a puppet, and the president is the one controlling the... I don't know whether when you are growing up, Gerard, I know Lucia did not find the puppet entertainment. Age could not allow him to find that part of entertainment. You remember in schools, we would have those guys bring puppets in schools. That is exactly what BBI is proposing. He's proposing a prime minister who is a puppet to the president. Because as long as I hold the authority to fire you, I will control you. It doesn't matter how many prime ministers you make. It doesn't matter how many deputy presidents you make. As long as I, as the president, holds the authority to fire you, you will dance to my tune anywhere. In fact, you jump. I tell you to jump, you will be asking how high.
Yeah. Mijungu, on what Mushendu has said, there was I can't remember who said this, but I remember it was Reverend Njoya who shared it on Twitter. And it said, Jesus did not allow people he helped to become his disciples. And when you look at it clearly, Jesus did not help his disciples. He just called them, handpicked them and called them to do whatever it is he wanted them to do. And the reason why Jesus did not allow the people he helped to become his disciples is because indebtedness is the highest form of sycophancy. And let me tell you this, I'm very loud and opinionated and everything, but ukinipatia hapa 1,000 unajua kesho nitashindwa kukuchamba. I'll go like, but nilikuwa na njaa jana na Mijungu akanipea tenga, you know. So hata kama nakupasha, nitakupasha, sitakupasha. You know, there is a difference. So when we say that, I agree, 5 heads are better than 1. They're better than 2. But then, where are these heads coming from? Because if I become president tomorrow under the BBI and I have to elect a prime minister and the deputies to that prime minister, what prevents me from just picking Gerald and Doug and Steve and Mushendu and the people who are around me? And you know, that does not also mean that it's going to be inclusive, because then what happens if I decide to pick people from my community because I feel like these are the people I can trust? I cannot trust Mushendu, he's Okuyu. I cannot trust Mijungu, yeye ni wa huko, anatoka kwa watu wa Raila, watu hawezi kuwa, you know, it's not an issue of I don't think the BBI is an issue of legislation. I don't think kuna mahali kuna upungufu kwa sheria. Sidhani kuna mahali kuna upungufu yenye ati ina require the BBI kwa constitution. I really do not think so. The change that we want, that we are clamoring for, has to come from within. We have to start behaving like what we are preaching. The president stood and said, you have to observe COVID-19 measures, you know, and even us as leaders have to observe COVID-19 measures. And if you see us not observing COVID-19 measures, call us out on our bullshit. And then the next day he went and called 100,000 people to come and sit together with him with no masks and social distancing. So you see, it's innate. It's not something that we can put down on paper and then say that we want to implement this. Because one, where is that will to implement? These are very good proposals in here. They're very good, some of them. But then where is the will to implement? Because now we know it's not going to be implemented. And as a young person, I'll tell you this. There is YAGPO for young people. There is the Women Enterprise Development Fund. There is the Youth Enterprise Development Fund. And yet, we still have over 3 million young people not involved in any economic gainful activity. This begs the question, why? Because implementation is almost zero. There is no monitoring and evaluation to improve on that which is not even being implemented in the first place. So if we sat down and we said, let's look at the TJRC Commission report. This is what it recommends. This is what can happen. And this is what we have tried to do. This is what we have been unable to do. And therefore the BBI report comes to fill that gap. Let's bring it closer, the Big Four agenda. If the president was to stand and say, my agenda was health, education, manufacturing, and what else? I can't remember the fourth one. And says, I have implemented ABC and infrastructure, yeah? He said, I have implemented ABCD. I was aiming for 24,000 kilometers of road. I've only been able to do 10,000 because of A, B, and C. And this is where the BBI is coming to supplement to those challenges that we have had in implementation. I would have no problem with that. But then when people who have been doing nothing want to come and continue doing nothing in the name of trying to do something when there is nothing to be done at all, does not make sense.
All right. Last round of tackle of the day. Tackle of Mijungu, your tackles of the day. Your tackle of the day.
I have heard Lucia, I've heard Mushin, and I have heard the callers. This is what I can say. When it comes to 35%, if you prefer 15%, so be it. Vote for 15%. So vote no, retain the 15% and wait for goodwill. That is it. Okay. If you don't prefer a negotiated cabinet amongst 5 people from different tribes, from different diversities that even the Constitution acknowledges that we are diverse and calls for that diversification, where we needed goodwill for the last 8 years and it has not worked. At least we've moved from 2 to 5 in terms of diversity. So be it. Vote for 2 by rejecting no and leave the 5 and let us move on. When it comes to positions that are being added or not being added, it is our choice. look at the positions, look at the Prime Minister as Raila or Uhuru, look at the President as Uhuru or Mudavadi. Make sure those positions, as you look at them, figure out that it's probably Kalonzo, Raila, or anybody else occupying. If you think those people are going to live for the next 50 years to still occupy positions, please reject BBI and vote no. That is all I can say. If the embodiment of the opposition of the BBI is William Ruto, and he has made better decisions in the last years that have resulted into inclusivity, that it has resulted into credibility in running of government affairs, that has resulted into management of COVID well, because COVID could have been managed well or better if we had better health systems even before, not today. If you think his decisions within government, as it is up to today, have been good enough for the country, please hoist him up as the embodiment of the opposition of BBI and vote no. That is where I rest it. If you think there is no inclusivity, there's no need of taking money to the grassroots by law. If you think your MCA does not deserve 5% to help manage every little person who walks into the next house of the MCA to ask for bursaries, to ask for funeral, whatever, to ask for all those things, because I can tell you, if you think the 5% is not necessary for the MCA, please vote no. Don't bother, and let us leave it to goodwill. And if you think if you think in your mind you are angelic enough to know that the person who is going to be in government, who is going to be president, be it Raila Odinga, be it William Ruto, if you think they're angelic enough, my friends, to be able to implement the constitution without unnecessary burgeoning or robust reinforcement of the current laws through BBI, if you think goodwill will work, and one day goodwill will work, we don't need to correct anything, please vote no. Because the referendum, in reality, it is coming. It is a choice we have to improve the document even by a little bit. I, from the onset, made my reservations about the office of the Prime Minister. I would have loved somebody with security of tenure. I would have loved somebody who proposes the cabinet or a team to the president. I would have loved somebody who would had more wherewithal. But if this is what we have today, and one day we could improve it after, because we are seemingly afraid of pushing things so far. I think we are the step-by-step kind of country. Let us have it as it is. That would be my conclusion. So, overall, if you think there is no benefit that BBI is accruing, that your only problem to vote no is the three positions of not as positions as they are, but positions meant to add responsibility, firepower, and more leverage into infusing more influence into government, please vote no. But if you think there is something additional, if you think it brings accountability back to parliament, if you think it brings accountability back to public glare, if you think a minister who is appointed from parliament comes from your village, and therefore as a young person or as you will be able to ask him from your these cabinet secretaries that we have, we don't even know where they live. We don't even know where they're elected. If you think a minister that will be elected from your village will be a person you can even talk to directly, vote yes. But if you think...
How many villages can one minister come from?
There is no... No. The fact that you can be able to listen to one villager means you can be able to listen to many more villagers. As opposed to what we have today, where a cabinet secretary, you don't even know who they are. In fact,
but their villagers know them.
No, their villagers know them, but they are not accountable to the villagers in terms of the vote. But if you think that's fair, so be it.
Your tackle of the day, Lucia. Very fast, Masane.
Okay, so let me even focus on what Billy has said so that I can respond to him and give my tackle of the day. The problem with this country is that we have top to bottom leadership. True. And that is the whole problem. All these things you're saying that we need are good. However, that change has to come from the bottom. It does not have to come from the top. And the BBI is coming from the top. And there is no way you're convincing me that those views at the top are what was collected at the bottom. True. Because if they were, we would not even be having this conversation in the first place. So that is my whole problem with the BBI report. I'm not saying our constitution is perfect. I'm not saying it has catered for everything. I'm not saying goodwill is the only thing that we need to depend on. But in order, Billy, for us to see the changes that you want us to see, that you think the BBI is going to bring, this is not the way to go. The BBI is not the way to go. Civic education from the grassroots is the way to go. Because when we have a woke population, then they can be able to hold their leaders to account. And if those leaders are not accountable, then further measures to remove them from office can be made. But right now, my people are suffering for lack of knowledge. So let us inform the masses. The BBI, let us put it aside, because iyo ni mpango ya politicians. And they even tell us every day themselves, they tell us 80% of what is in the BBI is for them. And the BBI CA2, BBI is not for me, BBI is not for you, it is not for your children. You're imagining Kenya in the next 50 years because you're worried for your future generations. The BBI is not going to help them. And unless we sensitize and inform the masses, 50 years from now, our children will still be living in this shithole country that we are in right now. And I agree with you. Ruto is part of the mess in government. He shouldn't even dare to distance himself from it. If Uhuru Kenyatta has failed, so has William Samoei Ruto.
Lucia.
Yes.
Lucia, Bitok.
Muchendo.
Before Muchendo says anything, you know, Lucia,
I gave you your time, bro. Time is out.
Muchendo,
funga ni ya mwisho.
No, wacha Muchendo aende nita.
No, baba funga maliza basi. Ghost tackle zinakwanga kufunga. Tackle of the day inakuwa kufunga. Sawa wewe tuambie. Wewe niambie.
I've even forgotten. But Lucia, anyway, what I can tell you is this, huh? BBI or no BBI, take it as a wholesome document. The way it is. If you do think it's a little bit of an improvement, that is good enough. If it's not, let's forget about it.
Okay.
Muchendo. The one and only man who killed a dead lion.
Well, I refuse to respond to that accusation, Bitok. I only kill lions that are not dead.
Nonetheless,
I want to believe that this particular document in the name of BBI, it is a wish list that does not show a pathway to its implementation in this sense. The 15% already guaranteed to the county government is a problem for this national government to deliver it to county. As I'm talking to you...
Actually, it is a minimum.
Yes, 15%. It's a minimum of 15%. There's nothing stopping government from giving us 35%. Nonetheless, I think it is okay to say that we enshrine the 35% in the constitution. That much I agree with it. But my problem is this. We are talking about 15% that is already guaranteed, that has not been able to go to the county government. As I'm talking to you, over 24 counties have not received their exchequer to pay the October salary. We are heading to past the middle of November. They have not been able to get that money. And I'll tell you why I have a problem with the proposals in this document. This document goes ahead to propose at least 35% to be put to the counties. I applaud the people who came up with this. But what is the pathway to achieving that 35% going to the county? And I'll tell you why I don't think there is a pathway to do this. One, it is 35% of the last audited government accounts. Now, the question begs, how many audited accounts? What is the current audited account we are using today to dispatch money to the county government? Today, Bitok, we are using the 2016-2017 audited government account. Somebody has designed it in the national government to ensure that Parliament does not audit government accounts in time. I tell you, today we're supposed to be using the 2019-2020 government audited account. Were we using that audited account, we would be having counties receive over 400 billion shillings if we were using that audited account. But there is a design that the national government ensures that the audited accounts of government are not dated up to date. That is something this BBI is not addressing. That even as you're talking about 35% coming to the county, have you dealt with the question on timely auditing of government account to ensure that counties get money in accordance with the last audited government account, which is up to date? The other issue why I have a problem with the 35%, this same BBI takes away the power of the Senate to deal with all money bills. This BBI proposes that all money bills are now a precinct of the National Assembly. Therefore, the Senate cannot adjudicate on matters of money bill. That is including pushing for the audited government account to be on time and to be on date. That has been left to the National Assembly, whose most important role is to help the national government govern. So therefore, you tell us you're giving us 35%, but you have not given us a pathway to know that for sure, that if Kiambu is supposed to receive 35%, it receives 35% of a last audited government account that is up to date. And number two, the Senate that is supposed to adjudicate the matters county does not have an oversight role on all money bill. In fact, the only thing that this Senate has been left to do is deal with the county allocation bill. And that is after the money has been allocated by the National Assembly. So therefore, I have a problem with giving us 35% as county government because I love devolution, but you have not given us an explicit pathway to know that for a fact we shall receive this 35%. The other issue, and the last one that I'm going to deal with when it comes to the issue of allocating counties, this BBI is proposing the same thing that is already in the Constitution about the, what do you call him, the Commission on Revenue Allocation deals with the, what do you call it, budget allocation. I'm looking at, what do you call it? Let me check for it.
Very quickly, Mushendu.
Yes,
already
yes.
30 minutes past.
Yes, they are talking about the budget, controller of budget. Satisfied the allocation of county monies has been reduced to the satisfaction of the controller of budget. It is the same, it is what is in the Constitution, it is what is in this BBI, that the entire allocation of 47 county government has been reduced to the satisfaction of the controller of budget. Have we put parameters to ensure that the controller of budget does not wake up in bad moods and refuses to okay money to other counties? Yeah. What are the parameters to ensure the satisfaction of the controller of budget is legal and it is going to be within the law? We are leaving the 47 county government at the whim of Gerard Bitok. He wakes in a bad mood. He does not okay county allocations. Tomorrow he wakes in a bad mood. He okays money for counties that have misused it.
Asante sana. Thank you guys for coming in. It's always a pleasure to have you. Wacha nisome comments hapa kidogo tukisonga. David Sirma anasema legislative matters are not referendum. Deal with them now. Ndiri Mike anasema listening to Billy telling us the prime minister who is an appointee of the president will have powers leaves me struggling to understand. Fake. Pauline Cherop anasema you think if you appoint a PM he will force the president to act. Bullshit maneno. Caitlin anasema Billy Mijungu fake. Pauline Cherop anasema 70 additional MPs is viable unnecessary to Kwera. I don't know. Walikuwa namaanisha nini to Kwera. And then Mike anasema leave Ruto out of your minimal ways of convincing us please. Billy is just one Kenyan. Tuko uku and we know how to read. David Kamasema Billy bear with Team Tackle even if it's becoming motto vumilia. Kibi Charles anasema the office of the PM and deputies comes with a budget. Tell Billy that. I'm shocked Mijungu is that brainwashed. Yenyewe kusoma sio shida ni kuelewa. Angie Eloy anasema Dianox anasema Mijungu is saying those added positions will be paid their initial salary. My question is which office is run by a salary? Honorable Julius Favor anasema jamaa amejam. Wali Ncherema anasema Meshach, nobody say the document was bad, but it needs consensus. Mtiri Mike anasema hakuna makasiriko bile. And Julius Favor anasema Bitok, we don't need people catching feelings, especially young people. Let's have a sober conversation. My feeling to watch home. David Silva anasema sweeteners don't need referendum. Let them be implemented now. Alfred Mutua anasema Billy wacha machungu bwana. Mwangi Kimon Gasman anasema Mijungu acha hasira. Anasema Mushendu asked his Mijungu to show us from the document, but he declined. Why is he shouting at us? Pili Jero anasema mnaogopa Ruta mpaka mnamuota kweli yeye ni ndume. Kikaji anasema Mijungu anakasirikia nani? Rona anasema Mijungu wacha machungu. Kwa nini that advisors Kili Kiboy? Kwa nini mnafinyilia Mijungu sana? Kili Kiboy anasema Gerald this guy Mijungu looks like a scam by the look. Wanaina Samuel wajinga Kenya wameisha. Nani where will this money you are yapping will come from? Hata hii 15% hakuna. Devolve functions not money. Jim toka sema huyu jamaa acha makasiriko. Julius sema come on Bito, give us the next person bana. There is nothing new Mijungu is telling us. Kili Kio sema doesn't know how to communicate with public feeling. Wacha hii ni attack sote ya Mijungu. Abbas anasema I want this BBI to pass and squeeze us to the wall economically for the next 10 years, so as Kenyans would learn to be genuine enough when making and amending the constitution next time. Underline the word genuine. There are people forwarding emotions and politicians' interest in this matter. Pauline Sema Billy, the god, Banduking. Oh, give me just as Billy has closed shop and gone with the sweets. As I'm going to sweet and Astana, there is a Congress Sema Billy. I agree with you. If you think that the current system serves you well, then it's very simple. Just vote no. Edwin Bonyo anasema listening from Bondo, enlightening indeed. David Silva anasema if you are wasting 14 billion, then write off L loans, 4 years holiday in Bura. Kipias anasema Billy a good debater debating a poorly written document. So Billy is a good guy but the document is bad. Kipkech Willy anasema I think a lesson that Mijungu has learned today is kwa ground vitu ni different. Anasema so chairs was appointed by Ruta only. Jerudesi anasema we are making a lot of noise for no reason. If the president wants this BBI, trust me it will come to an end. Raila has got no power to push the BBI. We know it tried the Okoa Kenya and it was thrown out because it was a bad document, but because the president didn't like it. The Punguza Mzigo document didn't even make it past the county assemblies simply because the president didn't like it. The good thing is that finally it's the wananchi that has the final say. Araba anasema mjambo team. Jambo sana Araba, tumekosa sana kawa ya Java. Cheza kama hiyo kesho. Rona hii anasema thanks a lot guys, today's tackle was late. Bruce Lee Isadi anasema Billy is a coward. Anyway guys, thank you so much for joining us. The tackle, this is the tackle and the tackle ends now. Up to see you guys again tomorrow. Thank you so much. Tutaongelea mambo zingine tukijua ni Billy. Asanteni kwa kuja. Nusu kwa na wasiwasi. Hao mataklas wana tackle hivyo. This is a tackle. People are tackled every day. Yeah, zingine wasiwasi. These are very good people. You have been baptized by fire.
Happy International
Women's Day.
No, Happy International Men's
It's a men's day. But these guys have combined our day with toilet.
But considering I'm in a studio full of men, Happy International Day to you guys. You make my mornings brighter.
Usiongee moshi kama vile umekuja kuongea.
Nawapenda sana bana, mnachangamshanga asubuhi zangu bana.
Nakupenda zaidi. Na mwache kusema sisi ni scam. Sisi ni watu wa maana sana. Ni vile hao nyinyi ndio mnatuonanga vibaya. Lakini Yesu ni Bwana. To all the men, Happy International Men's Day. Na unajua mmekutanishwa na choo. Lakini choo pia ni kitu ya maana. Bila choo maisha ni ngumu. Asante sana. This is a tackle and the tackle ends now. See you again tomorrow. Bye bye.